On August 15, 2021, Porkchop Express tweeted, "Sorry, not going to care about Afghanistan because I grew up with an alcoholic, psychologically abusive father in constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry about the future. Hearing the key in the door every evening was my own Afghanistan for almost 20 years. This is the Museum of Twitter, the show where we talk about the most important tweets in the history of Twitter.com. The level of mental gymnastics required for Porkchop Express to make the 2021 Taliban offensive about herself is really remarkable. The type of gymnastics that could compete with Simone Biles. Because I don't know anything about Porkchop Express, she deleted this tweet pretty quickly, she made her account private, I can't really find that much information about her, and honestly I don't want to dox her if I could, but I think it's fair to assume that she had nothing to do with the US's decision to pull out of Afghanistan and the way that the Taliban took advantage of that. I assume that she didn't have family members who were fleeing at the airport, I assume she never visited any of the towns that got taken over, I assume she had nothing to do with it. And the thing is, she doesn't have to care about it. One of the unfortunate privileges of being American is that you don't actually have to care about the suffering we cause either on purpose or inadvertently. Because it's the internet, she was not content to just not care. She had to let us know she didn't care. But also because it's the internet, she couldn't be the bad guy in this story. Basically, she is turning the idea that people might want her to care about what's going on in Afghanistan into an attack of which she's the victim. And so she says she doesn't have to care about Afghanistan because she had an alcoholic and psychologically abusive father. And to be clear, that's absolutely awful. I have no reason to doubt that she incurred a lot of trauma from her father. But I also think it's reasonable to say that having experienced trauma in your past does not give you carte blanche to never care about the suffering of others ever again. Because once you accept the idea that having an alcoholic, psychologically abusive father frees you from having to care about Afghanistan, it really frees you to not care about anything. And yeah, undergoing that psychological abuse might give you a different perspective on some issues. It might make you more detached on some issues, but come on. You know damn well your alcoholic father has nothing to do with what was going on in Kabul. And she wasn't content to just make this point. She had to be literary with it. She had to say, hearing the key in the door every evening was my own Afghanistan for almost 20 years. Not only is this really corny, it also does a thing that you don't really want to do in this situation, which is compare your micro trauma to the trauma of millions. I say micro because it's just one person. Once again, I'm not trying to downplay her trauma, which I have no doubt she had. But as traumatic as her childhood was, there was video of people on television trying to hold on to the wheels of planes and falling to their deaths. I'm sorry, that's just not the same thing as you hearing your dad's key in the door at night. Because if you mean that sincerely, you need to get a grip and get a therapist that doesn't advertise on podcasts. And so obviously people roasted the crap out of her. One of my favorite reactions was from Arch Badger, who said this ranks with the woke gator tweet, which is referring to what I consider the worst tweet ever tweeted, and I covered in entry 39. But this almost instantly became a copy pasta. You want me to run through some examples? I'll run through some examples. The most immediate one I could find was from Alab, who tweeted, sorry, not going to care about Afghanistan because I grew up being rejected by every single female I ever tried dating. The mockery, the shame, the hush laughing and whispers. Being an incel was my own Afghanistan for the last 36 years. Roms tweeted, sorry, not going to care about Nikki's cousin's friend's balls because I grew up with an alcoholic, psychologically abusive father in constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry. Hearing the key in the door every evening was my own cousin's friend's balls for 20 years. Oppressed Peoples of Normal Island tweeted, sorry, not going to care about Elon buying Twitter because I grew up with an alcoholic, psychologically abusive father in constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry about the future. Hearing the key in the door every evening was my own Elon buying Twitter for almost 20 years. Sorry, not going to care that you can't get Taylor Swift tickets because I grew up with an alcoholic, psychologically abusive father in constant state of anxiety about the future. Hearing the key in the door every evening was my own Ticketmaster for almost 20 years. Relevant to this app, Shreya tweeted, sorry, not going to care about TikTok getting banned because I grew up with an alcoholic, psychologically abusive father in constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry about the future. Hearing the key to the door every evening was my own TikTok getting banned for. And a couple silly ones were Jimmy Frabergoli, who tweeted, sorry, not going to care about Hawk Tua because I grew up with a little cat that threw up hairballs every other day, leaving me in a constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry about the future. Hearing her gag from the other room was my own Hawk Tua for 14 years. And when there was that really dumb discourse about the Star Wars character Ki-Adi-Mundi in The Acolyte, Dr. Dad PhD tweeted, sorry, not going to care about Ki-Adi-Mundi lore because I grew up with a psychologically abusive George Lucas in constant state of distress, anxiety, and worry about the future of Star Wars. Hearing about a new Star Wars was my own Ki-Adi-Mundi for almost 20 years. I feel like those examples really underline how silly the whole thing is. It shouldn't need to be said, but having had a bad thing happen to you earlier in your life, while bad, does not give you an excuse not to care about other bad things. And it's not about you. I'm really sorry that these bad things happen to you, Porkchop Express, but it really does feel like you're seeing people talk about Afghanistan and you're like, why are they not talking about the bad things that happened to me? And that level of egomania is the thing that makes some of the worst posts in the history of Twitter, but also some of the most important posts. Because it is genuinely astounding to me that there are people who are this self-centered who exist. And I don't even say self-centered as a big insult. It's clearly this person is very self-centered. They are centering themselves when there is horrible stuff happening on the other side of the world. It really is a Herculean effort to make it about her. Follow me for a new tweet every day and consider subscribing to my Patreon, patreon.com/Museum of Twitter, where you get the weekly Museum of Not Twitter, and you can vote on what I cover on Subscriber Sundays.